I want to welcome you to the annual Point in Time Count. I'm Sue Marshall. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Partnership. I want to start by thanking all of you for volunteering to come out to help us with this very important event. I see a lot of new faces. I also see many, many, many veterans, so thank you all again. I also want to thank my team from the partnership. Tom Fredrickson, wherever you are, let's give Tom a big hand. I also want to thank all of our partners, starting with district government led by Mayor Bowser. I want to thank all of the partners from the nonprofit, profit, and other communities who have joined us. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce and present to you Mayor Bowser. Before I bring her forward, I want to thank her as I do every year. Each year we do this, she gives me something new to thank her for. And today I want all of us to be reminded how fortunate we are to live in a city with progressive leadership. So let's thank Mayor Bowser for that leadership.
Well, good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for taking time out of your lives, not just tonight, but for, I'm sure, just about everybody here, for every day being focused on how we can make sure that more people in our city are participating in a city that is growing and thriving in so many ways. I want to thank the members of my team who have very tough jobs, but come to work every day focused with good ideas, focused on being strategic, persistent, and making systematic changes across our human services and housing sectors so that more people are finding safe and affordable housing right here in the District of Columbia. I'm very grateful to Christy Greenwald for her leadership on the district's Interagency Council on Homelessness. Please acknowledge Christy Greenwald. I'm very grateful to Laura Zeilinger and the entire team at the Department of Human Services for their smart leadership. Please acknowledge Laura and the DHS team. We're grateful to Sue Marshall and the Community Partnership for the Prevention of Homelessness, who has been doing this very tough work and rewarding work for a long, long time in Washington, D.C. So certainly this past week, we have had many tough conversations in our city about homelessness in the district. And here's what I want to make clear. We know that there are people in our city who have fallen on hard times, often through no fault of their own. And also we know that this city believes in second chance housing, third and fourth chance housing, and we believe in housing first. And at the end of the day, we don't want any residents sleeping outside. But many of you are veterans of this point in time count, so you know that you will see, unfortunately, too many people sleeping outside on what is a bitterly cold night in our city. Our community outreach partners are out every day building relationships, checking on folks, and doing their best to connect people with services. Frequently, when we're out in communities doing community walks and we see one of our residents who is experiencing homelessness, I always have somebody with DHS with me on these community walks, and I always ask them, who's this resident? And I have never asked them that question where they didn't or weren't able to tell me who they thought the resident was and how many times we've contacted that resident to try to get services to them. So that is the type of work that your government is doing each and every day with outreach teams that are engaging DC residents to try to get every resident in service. What we know is that we can get you into shelter and get you stabilized. There may be, and it may be, certainly faster to get you connected to a housing service and resource that you need. And many people are immediately eligible and qualify for those resources. So as we engage people tonight, and as we go throughout the next days in Washington, D.C., know that we have made unprecedented investments in this city in transforming our entire homeless services system, from prevention to emergency shelter for families. We are very focused on emergency shelter for singles. In fact, we are beginning a $40 million transformation of the 801 East men's shelter on the campus of St. Elizabeth's. We also listened very closely and worked hard to have the right downtown day center open, where our investment in permanent supportive housing has also increased by 60%. So we continue to make these types of investments because the residents and taxpayers of the District of Columbia are allowing us to make unprecedented improvements in our system. The Conference of Mayors is a meeting in Washington right now. You know, I'm an active participant in the Conference of Mayors, where I'm discussing with fellow mayors what this nation will do about a growing homeless crisis in cities across the United States of America. I'm grateful here that we have the framework to get it done. We have the political will across both branches, both the executive and the judicial branch of our government, and we have the commitment of our taxpayers to allow us to make these kinds of investments. So the work is not easy, but I am proud that we can report progress. When we look at how we have driven down family homelessness in the city, it's quite remarkable. We've prevented people from coming to the system, and we're getting people through the system better. And we have 8 short-term family housing facilities very soon, one coming in Ward 1, that we all can be very proud of. And now our focus has to be on our men's system. So with that, I again want to say thank you for your commitment, and thank you for the empathy and caring that it takes to be out on a night like this to help your fellow Washingtonians. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would now like to bring up Councilmember Brianne Nadeau. We are in Ward 1, so I want to bring her up as representing Ward 1, my council person, also as chair of the Council Committee on Human Services. Chairman Nadeau.
Thank you very much. One of my favorite constituents over here, Sue Marshall, leader of TCP. Thank you for your partnership. I'm Brianne Nadeau, the Ward 1 council member and chair of the Committee on Human Services, and I want to thank each and every one of you for all the work that you are doing in our communities to end homelessness, and in particular to the more than 300 volunteers that are here tonight to make sure that we get an accurate count of the people that we need to serve here in our community. It's been my privilege to serve as chair of the Committee on Human Services for the past 3 years, which has oversight of homelessness and includes the Interagency Council on Homelessness and the Department of Human Services. And in this role, I've been charged with serving our most vulnerable residents. And I believe that the committee is meeting that challenge. As chair, I'm working with Mayor Bowser to ensure that homelessness is brief, rare, and non-recurring here in the District of Columbia. And in the current budget, we've made significant progress in ensuring that we can house people who've been sleeping out on the streets. So through investments in housing this budget cycle, we will end chronic homelessness for 615 more individuals. Thank you. And the committee has also worked incredibly hard to fund each year, fully fund the Solid Foundations Plan to end youth homelessness, which we know can lead to chronic homelessness. So it really is up to us to ensure that we are fulfilling the promise to our youth. This year, I also secured $3.7 million to create a new homeless street outreach program to connect residents with services and housing. And although the Department of Behavioral Health has been an incredible partner to all of us working on these issues, we know that not everybody who is experiencing homelessness has a behavioral health issue. Right? Homelessness is caused by many different things. And so we felt it was incredibly important to have a homeless outreach program under DHS. And I'm thrilled to partner with the department and our community organizations to implement this program this year. As you all probably know, we have our councils in the middle of our performance oversight hearings. This is our opportunity to talk with the executive about all the work they've been doing throughout this budget cycle. So we're going to hear a lot more about how they've been implementing these funds just next week at our hearing. And I'm sure many of you will be there to participate. Now, as we embark upon Homeward DC 2.0, we're more aware than ever of the challenges that we face as a region. And tonight, the activity that we're performing, this count, is being mirrored by people all across the Metro DC region. I recently became chair of the Human Services Committee for the Metro Washington Council of Governments, which is a body that convenes elected leaders from all over the region, the counties, the cities, and the other jurisdictions. And I've chosen to make my year as chair, which began this month, an active conversation about how we end chronic homelessness as a region. Because one of the things that we know is that the District of Columbia is making major investments in ending chronic homelessness and ending family homelessness. And there are jurisdictions that surround us that are doing the same. But we have to all be on the same page. We have to be counting the same way. We have to be measuring who we're serving and who's not getting access to services. We have to create continuity in how we make those services available. Hotlines, transportation, low barriers. And unless we do that, then we can't do this as a region. And if we don't do this as a region, then we won't succeed as a district. Because we know that people experiencing homelessness, people dealing with housing insecurity, people who are struggling in this region are not struggling in one jurisdiction. They're struggling in general. And it might not matter to them where they were living yesterday when they need services today. But as governments, we impose those rules. So if we can work together and we can create more uniform policies, then we can really solve this problem. But it all starts with the count. And I can tell you that when I made this pitch to my colleagues on the COG committee this month, there was so much enthusiasm for really jump-starting this conversation again. And I want to give credit to Mayor Bowser. When she became mayor, she made a compact with Prince George's and Montgomery counties to end homelessness. And she has been working her butt off to fulfill her part of that compact, but it's stalled in other parts of the region. But in that meeting this month, I had my colleagues in Virginia saying, hey, why weren't we a part of that compact? Which is exactly the right question for us to be hearing from Virginia. And it's exactly the right question that I hope will be asked throughout the region. So I'm continuing that work. I have my little chronic homelessness in the region roadshow that I've been taken out on the to all my colleagues out there, and folks are very excited. In fact, they all want to come visit our short-term family housing. They want to come visit our day center, and a lot of them signed up for their own point-in-time counts tonight because they're understanding how important this is. But tonight here, this is where it all begins. And I can tell you that our committee in July at COG is also going to be looking at all the data that you all collected and really trying to draw conclusions across the region about how we can start working together strategically to ensure that people have access to the services they need no matter where they live in the region, and that they're supported and that they're housed. So thank you, because it all starts with you. The data is critically important to understanding what the challenges are, and leaders need to see that. So we appreciate you.
And now I would like to bring forward Councilmember Alyssa Silverman, and I'm sure she's going to, among other things, talk to us about the importance of employment support as we work to end homelessness. Councilmember Silverman.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Well, I certainly don't want to contradict Sue, so I will talk about that. So I'm Alyssa Silverman. I'm one of the at-large council members, and I'm also chair of the Committee on Labor and Workforce Development. So I really have very short remarks this year. First, I want to thank you, the volunteers. And I'm sorry I got here late, but give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. We could not, you are critical to making sure we get the funding we need for homeless services in our city. Second of all, certainly this has been a focus of our mayor. And I also want to thank my colleague, Brianne Nadeau, who I think doesn't get enough credit for chairing one of the toughest committees on the council, and who the person I look to when it comes to human services work on the council. So thank you, Brianne. Finally, we do need to make a connection, certainly having a permanent home and having hope is key to success. But we know this is an incredibly expensive city. And to be able to afford to live in this city, you need a job, a career really, with a living wage. And we need to make sure we are connecting all of our residents to our biggest industries in this city. And that is something that I hope to work more with the mayor, with my colleague Brianne Nadeau, and actually with everyone. We need the private sector, the public sector, and the nonprofit sector all working together, because we aren't connecting our residents to the prosperity that's happening in this city, right? You go to community meetings, what is the comment? I see a lot of cranes, I see a lot of economic development, but I don't see myself and my neighbors getting jobs out of this prosperity. We need to connect our residents to employment, and that's making sure, yeah, I think we should get a round of applause. Thank you. Whoever started that round of applause, I applaud you. Really, because we have a lot of missed opportunities in our city. You know, our biggest private sector employers, we're not training for the jobs that they have. And we need to make those connections so that, you know, I like sports. We need to build farm teams out of our young people and out of our residents and not so young people, so that they are actually getting jobs out of the biggest industries we have in our city. And I can tell you that that is something I'm focused on, that my committee's focused on, and I hope to work with more of you on, especially if you're an employer here in this city. But anyway, it's a long night ahead, so thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate all of your hard work and look forward to working with you in this new year. Thank you.
So one more time, can we appreciate the progressive government that we have here in the District of Columbia? I want to say just one other thing about the mayor. The mayor was very modest when she said she is participating with the mayors this week. I would go so far as to say you're being a leader, and we appreciate that leadership on the national stage. We appreciate the investments that you and the council continue to make in the work that we do. So now it's time for the work to begin.